Well, it is the time of the year when many Canadians think of donating to charities. But over the past decade, the percentage of Canadians who actually do so has shrunk. It has fallen from 23% in 2011 to 17.7% in 2021. That's according to the Fraser Institute's latest Generosity Index report. And Jake Fuss is co-author of the report and director of fiscal studies at the Fraser Institute and joins us now. Jake, thanks so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me on.
So you've been tracking this in your generosity index over the years, and you look at tax filings of Canadians to see who has, donated to charities, because most people want to put that in their taxes to make sure that they get the benefit of it there. So tell us more about the decline that we've seen. We're looking at one of your graphs, and it just looks like a steady decline over the years.
Yeah, well, every holiday season we track the generosity of Canadians. And in this year's study, we found that the percentage of tax filers donating to charities has hit the lowest point in 20 years. Now, this has basically been a consistent trend over the last 2 decades. We've basically seen this consistent decline over the last 2 decades. And it's really kind of accelerated over the last decade in particular. And we're also seeing the share of income donated by Canadians on those tax returns also declining as well over time.
And I mean, you wouldn't find this in the tax data, but do you have any sense of why it might be on such a decline?
I mean, it's a good question. We don't track the exact reasons why in our study, but we do know from economic research that generosity is often sensitive to the amount of after-tax income people have available to them. So that might be one factor at play here, but we don't know the exact reason why, just because it's not tracked in our study for sure.
And so you also mentioned the proportion of someone's income that they're donating to charity has declined as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing there?
Yes. So back in about 2001, Canadians were donating roughly 0.6% of their household income to charities. We've seen this really steady decline over multiple decades. And now the amount that they donate as a percentage of their household income is just over 0.5% of their income. So it's been a pretty steady drop. And it's not unique to any one specific province, too. We're really seeing this across the board in all provinces in Canada. There's really been these declines in terms of the amount that Canadians are also donating as a percentage of their income as well.
I thought it was interesting in your report, Jake, that you mentioned the comparison with Americans and how much of their income they put towards charitable giving.
Yes, when we actually compare Canada to the United States, we actually see that we're significantly less generous, and this has been a pretty consistent trend over multiple decades as well. So Americans typically donate just over 1% of their household income, so it's almost double the amount that we donate in Canada at just over 0.5% of our income. There's been a pretty consistent gap, like I said, between those two countries since we've basically been doing this study for the last few decades here.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to ponder over as well. You mentioned that this is pretty widespread across the provinces, but there are some geographical differences. Where do you see, more generosity than not?
Yeah, so Manitoba places first in our rankings on both the share of income donated and the percentage of tax filers donating to charities. This has been, again, a very consistent trend that we've seen over time. Manitoba consistently ranks first among all the provinces. And then on the flip side of things, if we look at Quebec, for instance, they consistently rank at the bottom for the share of income donated to charities on these tax returns. And then New Brunswick this year ranked as the lowest province in terms of the percentage of tax filers donating to charities. So there's a bit of a difference based on all regions, but we are basically seeing a consistent trend even in Manitoba, who's ranking first. They're also declining in generosity over time, just like all other provinces in Canada.